Well, hello, Scott Stevens, Goldsboro City Manager here for our March update. It's hard to believe we're the first weekend of March as we record this, and I guess I'm hopeful the cold is behind us and the springtime is coming. So the next weeks ought to be sunnier and warmer as we move through March and April. I do want to say as we're leaving the winter time or February time frame and the snow and ice that we had in the community, I do want to thank the community for staying home through most of that, but also thank our employees who didn't have the opportunity to stay home. We had a lot of employees out working, from police to fire to public works to utilities to others doing their part to keep the community safe and operational through the cold weather. And so when some of us were able to stay home and were asked to stay home through the ice and cold, we had other employees out responding to you, and I do want to thank them. I particularly appreciate the working togetherness between the police department identifying areas that are problematic for vehicles and our public works department responding to those areas as called, as well as our Department of Transportation. And then following the really week of real cold we had here, we had a lot of water line breaks over a weekend where we had 6-inch lines within buildings that were flowing water and creating problems within the water system. And again, fire department and city employees from public works and utilities working together to solve those issues and respond throughout that weekend. So most of us wouldn't have known that was going on, but I assure you, your employees that work here with the city are always doing their part to make sure the areas they serve and the citizens here get the best. So I do want to thank them for that. Not a whole lot of progress on our Center Street project. We've talked about those, or I say Center Street, really our downtown projects being Center Street, Walnut Street, and the Transfer Center. Most of February was either too cold or too wet or too snowy or some combination of thereof. And so while we made some progress on the projects during February, not as much as we made during the months leading up to that. So at this point, those projects are slightly behind. If they were a little ahead of schedule before, they're probably slightly behind at this point. I would expect our contractors to make good progress over the coming months as we get into spring and summer, with still the end game of being done sometime early fall, November, September timeframe, depending on which project we're talking about. And I'll have more details to share at a future update as those projects move along. We do hope in March that we'll pave the existing southbound lane of Center Street that the contractor's been working, that we'd get that paved and get traffic moved over to that side, and then begin working on the northbound lanes of Center Street. So I think by our April recording, we ought to have that completed. I don't want to not mention our conversion of our garbage collection to a fully automated garbage truck, and what that really means is today we have a truck typically with 2 people on the back and a driver, so 3 people on a truck. The gentleman has to stop off the truck, grab your container at the street, put it on the truck then dumps it, puts it back, and the gentleman rolls it back, or our employee rolls it back to the street or off the street. We are converting to a fully automated truck where we have a driver and it has an arm that will reach out 12 feet, grab the container, dump the container, and then put the container back where it was. So you should begin to see those out as we're testing those in our routes. And again, no change in what you have to do at this point, but we will be sending information out that talks about placement, because that becomes more important, not to have it near vehicles or mailboxes or trees that are overhead or utility lines. We need an area where we can grab the container, lift it up over the truck, and dump it into the truck. And again, it's worked well in a lot of communities, so we're certainly not doing something that's unusual in the business of collecting garbage. It's just something different to the residents of Goldsboro. And so you'll see more of that coming. We ordered 3 of those trucks. They have arrived. We are now getting license and tags for them to be on the street, and our employees will be out, at least some, testing those and getting used to those vehicles as we attempt to roll those out over the coming months and change the way in which we collect. And for most residents, I don't think you'll notice a difference. For some, it may require different placement. And again, folks have asked, are you still going to do recycling? The answer is yes. Those automated trucks may or may not collect your recycling. But again, if they're collecting recycling, that's all they're collecting, and carrying it to the recycling center. The same truck can come back on a different day and collect your garbage, or a different time of day and collect your garbage and carry it to our transfer center. And then those that are unable to push their containers to the street, we currently have a program whereby you can let us know that, and we will come to your house and roll your container out and dump it and roll it back. And we'll still continue to do that. But if you have questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call, either in the city manager's office or at our public works department, and we can talk to you more about that. But more information coming through mailers and I guess our updates and other things as we go forward in time. couple things that have gone on, I guess, recently through February. One, the city, Goldsboro, did purchase the Goldsboro Country Club. And I know last fall when there was news of the Goldsboro Country Club closing, I had a number of calls saying that it was a shame the golf course was closing. And I just want to make clear, the golf course has been city-owned for a very long time. The Goldsboro Country Club was a privately owned members club. That is what went out of business, is the privately owned members club. And as we looked at that facility really over the, I guess, December, January timeframe and trying to make a recommendation to City Council, I didn't start in a position of saying we should buy it, but as we looked at the facility, it appeared to be in very good condition. The demand for meeting space was still evident in the community because we get continued requests for meeting space, whether they're family reunions or weddings or small group gatherings or what have you. And then finally, the thing for me that did it, we have talked about replacing our existing golf course clubhouse, that it is an older facility and it's okay, but in the coming years it is going to need to either be significantly renovated or replaced, and our budgeting requirements have shown about a $2 million expenditure coming sometime in the future. And so to be able to purchase the Goldsboro Country Club, which is probably the same era building as our current golf clubhouse, but a much more stately building and evidently better built, seemed to be a good option for us. And so that's really was the tipping point for me and maybe for some council members. But at any rate, the council did decide to purchase the Goldsboro Country Club. We have purchased it at a price of $400,000. We'll spend about $400,000 renovating the inside, mainly building, upgrading bathrooms and then redoing floor and wall coverings, just painting and recarpeting much of it. And then some work on the outside of re-landscaping, tearing down some existing buildings, getting rid of the pool, and keeping the clay tennis courts. So those improvements are coming with our hope of being in that building and using that facility by early summer, and then we would tear down our existing golf course clubhouse as well as the tennis house that was back behind the Goldsboro Country Club. So if you have questions on that project, please don't hesitate to give us a call. A big event coming for our community is the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base Air Show coming in May. I hope you've heard about that. I hope you've experienced one in the past, and at any rate, I hope you'll come experience this one again May 16th and 17th. A lot of effort going into that, and I want to say thank you to the men and women that serve and to the folks at Seymour Johnson for bringing the Thunderbirds and the air show here to Goldsboro. Really a lot of activity and a day's worth either day you choose to go. So I hope you'll make plans to attend that May 16th or 17th. One other thing we've talked about with City Council over the last several months, started last August, September timeframe, was the amount of hungry children in our community. There are programs where kids get school, well, as they're going to school, get fed breakfast and lunch at school, so there should be no kid that goes without a meal if they want to eat a breakfast or a lunch at school. But what about the weekends? And so what we heard was there was a significant need to continue to feeding children over the weekends. And so the council members got involved in that along with our mayor, and staff working to sort of pull resources together. And what we have developed is at least a pilot project whereby we would fund a program to feed kids Saturdays and Sundays from 3 to 5 o'clock at two of our schools, Wayne Early College and I think over at Dillard Middle, where would come in at 3, feed kids till about 4:30 and clean up till 5. And again, we're going to do that starting March 14th and running through June 7th, and trying to fill that need on the weekend where the kids are being fed Monday through Friday at school, but Saturday and Sunday providing at least one good meal each day. And we'll see. Our hope is that it's that the need is there and will be met. And if there is a need there, and this is really a pilot project for us, that we would seek state funding to have something continue next fall. So it's a pilot project for us, self-funded by the city, about $75,000 to try to address the hunger in our children within Goldsboro. And so please help us spread the word to get kids to those schools from 3 o'clock to 4:30 each Saturday and Sunday beginning March 14th through June 7th at Wayne Early College or Dillard Middle School. And again, the intention for us is trying to reduce the hunger in our kids in this community. Last Friday, I guess we had a pretty big announcement. It turned out to be the first Friday in March, depending on when this airs, but we had a pretty big announcement, an agreement between the county commissioners and the city council. It encompasses a number of things, and I think I'll share this presentation with you, and then if you have questions following it, please don't hesitate to call us. On March 6th, the Wayne County Commissioners and Goldsboro City Council met in joint session to discuss the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Goldsboro and the County of Wayne. The county intends to build a 56,000 square foot facility consisting of offices related to agriculture and a convention center meeting space with an assembly area of approximately 14,000 square feet. And for those that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to, that would basically be a banquet style seating of about 800 in that 14,000 square foot area, or theater style, meaning just rows of chairs of over 1,000 people. So a fairly large facility, and much larger than any public space we have for that type of event currently. In addition, the county would loan the city $3 million at a 1.5% interest rate for a 15-year term to provide funding for the city's multi-sports complex, which is proposed to be built on 60 acres the city will lease from the Air Force under the P4 initiative within the Air Force community. We're still working through the details of the lease with the Air Force, but we expect for that to be worked out through this summer. So we would be able to sign a lease this summer and then go to work on the project almost immediately with the funding provided by the county. The 1.5% interest rate is good for the city, and that normally when we're borrowing money, we're at a 2.5% rate or a little more. For the county, they get virtually no return on interest in the bank and in the investments or the banking accounts that we're allowed to put public money. So the county gets more interest on money they have. We get a good interest rate on money we borrow. And most importantly, we get to move this project forward for the community, which is getting a lot of visibility locally, but also within the Air Force nationwide. Again, the county would also provide $200,000 towards the renovation or purchase of the Goldsboro Country Club, and as I stated earlier, the city has purchased the Goldsboro Country Club, and so this at least has the county helping with the cost involved in the Goldsboro Country Club purchase. The city would convey 12 acres that we own, and I think this map will convey, at least what we're sharing to you, that 12 acres that borders Wayne Community College along Wayne Memorial Drive. The city owns 18 there on Wayne Memorial New Hope Road, so the 12 acres closest to the college we would convey to the county. The city would retain the 6 acres up at the intersection of New Hope Road and Wayne Memorial Drive. The city would provide a portion of the occupancy tax funding for the construction, maintenance, and operation of this facility of the county as follows: 33% for the first 20 years and 25% of those proceeds thereafter. And I'll talk a little more about this later. The city would work to recruit a hotel on the 6 acres that we retain to complement the agricultural and convention center, and we would do that. It would restrict the property to that type of use for the first 5 years, and then if we were unable to recruit a hotel within 5 years, we would restrict 3 acres of that property, and the other 3 could be used for other development that would complement or be, desired in the area. Again, the proposal would locate the Agricultural Convention Center on this 12 acres. It's currently owned by the city, but adjacent to Wayne Memorial College. A little more details of the agreement. It is a 20-year agreement with 2 10-year renewals, so in effect, a 40-year agreement, which is the life or expectancy of the Agricultural and Convention Center. I told you I would talk a little more about the city funding provided by the change in the occupancy tax. Currently, we have a 5% hotel or motel occupancy tax, which at 5% generates approximately $550,000 per year, or each 1% would generate $110,000. Half of that money goes for marketing of travel and tourism, so those are some of the billboards or advertisements outside of this community to let those passing through or outside of Goldsboro to ask them to come to here to spend a night. The other 50% goes for facilities, and that's under our current legislation. Under our proposed legislation, what we're asking the state to consider is to increase that tax to 6%, which is very common throughout the state. Of those that have an occupancy tax, more than half of them are at 6%. So 6% is very common throughout the state. And we would then want the marketing portion of travel and tourism to get 33%. And the facilities portion to get almost 67%. So that's the breakdown. The range is from 50-50 marketing and facilities to 33-67 marketing and facilities. Of that 66%, the city would retain 33% for 20 years to go towards facilities such as the multi-sports complex, and then we'd increase to almost 42%. The county the city would send to the county 33% for the first 20 years and then 25% thereafter, meaning, and the difference in that is that first 20 years would be some additional funding associated with debt service the county would have to provide full funding for the Ag Center. And what the county is proposing to build is something that today is in a cost of $14 million. So they have self-funded $4 million. The city's providing around $2 million in debt service for them. They've asked the state for $3 million, and they're working fundraising and other efforts to make up that difference. But their hope is that it all could come together. This Ag Center could be under construction in the next 18 to 24 months. For me, the Goldsboro Country Club is really moving along now, and it is under construction or renovation as we speak. And then the multi-sports complex, if funding, we sign the Air Force lease, get the design completed and go to construction in the fall or early of 2016, I believe you could be playing sports out there summer or early fall of 2016. So a lot of ifs still there, but that's coming, or at least I believe it to be. And it is all predicated on the state occupancy tax changing and going from 5% to 6%, because that provides our funding mechanism. Again, the city would transfer ownership of 12 of the 18 acres that we currently own, and if it wasn't used for the Ag Center within a 10-year period, it would revert back to the city. The city would waive all water and sewer tap fees for the Agricultural Convention Center development. The county would appoint a city representative to whatever advisory board that would have oversight of the convention center. And I don't know that exists yet today, but as they have a working group of people, we would at least have an opportunity to be part of that. And again, I think a good agreement, just a short summary of it again, the Goldsboro Country Club funding, the county would contribute $200,000 toward the purchase or renovation. That would give them 6 free rent uses a year. Priority booking for the Agricultural Convention Center. Agriculture would get priority. The city and the county would get secondary priority, and then the general public. So if we book it 2 years out, agriculture might get 3 months in 2 years. The city might get 2 months in 2 years, and then the general public would have it 2 years going in. So more to work on that. The NC Cooperative Extension Service would operate this facility, and then Travel and Tourism would help market the facility and would have 400 square feet of office space in the new facility. And then all parties have agreed we provide mutual ingress and egress or driveways for the entire site, and that we would build a stormwater detention pond that would serve the entire site. And again, both the county commissioners and city council approved this agreement, intergovernmental agreement, at a meeting they held jointly on March 6th. So I think it's a pretty exciting time for our community. I hope you're up to date on our Agricultural Center, multi-sports complex, and the Goldsboro Country Club. I would certainly encourage you to call us if you have any questions. And again, I just want to remind us all, spring is coming. I hope you enjoy this time of year. It happens to be one of my favorites as things turn back green again, and we can get outside in shorts and a t-shirt. But be safe wherever you are and enjoy the day that's at hand. And as always, if we can help with anything, please don't hesitate to call me, 580-4330. Again, 580-4330, or you can email me. There's a citizen request tab on our website that'll send an email to my office. But we're here to serve, and so whatever we can do to help you, please don't hesitate to call me. Thank you.